Hello and welcome to Geoscope on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. And down here we have Ollie Bowler Hatman. Yay, how you doing, Ollie?
I'm all right. You surprised me there.
Yeah, sorry, I surprised myself. It's not mirrored, my monitor. Yeah. Anyway, how you doing this evening? You okay?
I am doing quite well this evening. I'm doing quite well, very well this evening. As you can see, I've got my fire in the background.
Yeah, that's nice.
Oh, a nice, like a little snowy scene. I wish it was like
wintry wonderland outside. I really need to animate my background. So we've got a few things to talk about tonight. We've got the Houthi rebels out of Ukraine. What the hell is wrong with me? Yemen, who are currently attacking. Oh shit, my green screen is shunted over. Who are currently attacking cargo ships. They've stormed one with an amazing video. I mean, the production value on that video was outstanding.
Yeah, it's kind of strange that I never thought we would be seeing, shall we say, the upscale production values of terrorist organizations.
Yeah, it was kind of bizarre. And they've also fired a rocket today at a tanker. And then we've also got the GOP over in America. That's Grand Old Party. That's the Republican wankers, as we know and hate them. And they're... oh, hang on. You've got messages coming up on the screen. Don't want that. Right, that's better. And also Viktor Orban of Hungary, both holding up crucial funding to Ukraine. Yep. So we'll get into that in a moment. And you've got a story about Russian passports, which we'll also be getting to.
Yeah,
as well.
That's an interesting one. That one.
We were going to try and talk a little bit about the vote tonight in Parliament. I know that's domestic politics, but it involves another country, Rwanda, which could be on the brink of war with the Democratic Republic of Congo. Apparently, the leader of the Democratic Republic of Congo said about the leader of Rwanda that he's like Hitler, and if he's not careful, he'll end up like, Hitler ended up, implying dead in a bunker.
Yep.
But there's border skirmishes going on between the DRC and
but it's a completely safe country.
It's completely safe war zone. Country. Completely safe dictatorship. Completely safe autocracy. So let's kick off with the Houthi rebels then. Let's say a little bit of backstory here. So who are the Houthis? What are they doing in Yemen, and who's supporting them?
So Yemen itself is yet another. It's a Middle East mess essentially, and this really all starts with the original Yemen sort of government. Basically, they had a bit of a civil war, bit of an uprising with locals. Saudi Arabia didn't like this. They went charging in to try and deal with the war in Yemen. Didn't really turn out too well for them. Made it even a bigger mess. And now you've got what we call the Houthi rebels. These are an Iranian-backed group because they want to try and sort of...
These are Shia Muslims, yeah? Yep. These are Shia Muslims as opposed to Sunni.
Always the religious element when you got to get in the...
Yeah.
Always, are they Shia? Are they...
Sunni.
Sunnis, that's it. Are they Shia?
But then you've also got the Kurds. You've also got the Sufis. They're the people who do the whirling dervishes, who are seen as not great by other sects of Islam because they accentuate the spirituality side of their religion. But yeah, so essentially everything that's going on in the Middle East, let's just leave Israel to one side for a moment. Everything basically boils down to Saudi Arabia is Sunni and Iran is Shia, and they hate each other. And so you've got these proxy wars that have been going on since time immemorial. And as I learned in Iran, don't call an Iranian an Arab. They don't like it. They say, I'm not an Arab, I'm a Persian. Bugger off. But yeah, so that's why they're backing the Houthi rebels in Yemen, that until about 1991 was two countries. Oh. And then they went, let's put everyone together and then all live in harmony.
Possible even more international complications because, as we said at the beginning, international ships have been attacked, or at least big cargo containers, and Yemen sits right at the mouth of the Suez Canal.
Yes, well, the Red Sea.
Yeah, so it's one of the biggest one of the biggest and busiest shipping lanes in the world.
Yeah.
And if you all remember when we had the Green Sill ship,
No,
that
the
got
Evergreen. Evergreen?
Evergreen, that was it. Yeah.
Evergreen.
Not
There was
the
a Green Seal scandal. That was a completely different scandal involving David Cameron lobbying our government. Cheeky fucker.
Yeah, wrong.
Anyway,
wrong scandal. Yeah.
Remember that the ship got stuck in the Suez Canal. We've all been there. And they just sent some, they sent a bunch of tugboats and some, they dug it out, didn't they? Some JCB.
If you remember it stopped almost all trade going through the Suez Canal for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And if you had anything on order or anything like that during those 2 weeks, it got delayed.
Yeah.
It got massively delayed. And there was a ton of like economic problems that got caused just by one ship being stuck. Now, imagine if you get a situation where these Houthi rebels, as they seem to have now obtained long distance missiles, apparently from Iran. What if they now start attacking shipping in that strait?
Can I go and get my pirate map?
Yep. You can go
I'll get it off the wall. Just hang on a sec.
Oh, it's like we've got props.
Oh, this is bigger.
Oh,
I remember. There we go. There we go. That's nice. I can't hear you. Hello, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay, so this is a pirate map, not like a pirate map like at the Goonies, but this is a pirate map from 2010, and this is the Indian Ocean here, and over on this side, going up here, this is the Red Sea, and basically you've got Yemen here, and this is Somalia down this coast here, and basically all this area that you can see marked in pink, that whole area that goes off from the very tip of the south of India all the way down to nearly the top of Madagascar and across. That was all the high-risk area for Somali piracy. And basically what that meant was, if you were in that area, your insurance costs an absolute bloody fortune. That's an official shipping chart, that is. Your insurance cost a bloody fortune, and you had to have armed guards on board to protect the crew after 2010. So that, the 2011, I think it was, they changed the rules on that because you weren't allowed to have guns on merchant vessels until that point. Even during the war, I don't think they were allowed to have guns on merchant vessels. I think that was a convention of war.
I think you should have done, because I know we had, in World War I, we had armed merchant vessels.
Yeah.
The Germans got really salty about, if you ever looked that up.
But so this is a real threat, because you've got this little narrow bit where you go into the Red Sea, and all of our shipping that comes, everything we get from Japan, from India, from China, from Australia, our new trading partners in Australia, New Zealand, all the stuff the New Zealanders are sending over to us, it all has to go that way.
Yep.
And now, instead of just being attacked from one side, the Somalian side, they're now being attacked by the Yemeni side.
Yeah.
So do you...
Big problem is that this is an Iranian-backed group.
Yes.
That's doing this. And the question now becomes do they continue to encourage this, or do they stop? Because as you saw, during the whole Somali pirate era, where we got an international sort of response to Somali pirates, is this maybe where the UN comes in and says, hey, you need to knock this off now? Or is there going to be a UN response? I don't know if it goes that far, but if this does seriously start to be a problem, if this starts to disrupt international shipping, then I think you'll see.
But I think that's what they want to do, isn't it? Because from my point of view, it's probably, I'm being told by Jupp that they did have guns on them in World War II, so sorry about that. People in the Merchant Navy, yes, you were armed in World War II, which would make sense, but there was a long-standing convention that you didn't have weapons on, unless you had a special insurance or whatever, you go in a particular place. But yeah, you couldn't have armed guards on board. But yeah, this is backed by Iran. Iran also back Hamas. Iran also back Hezbollah.
Yep.
And you could see this as being a concerted effort by the Iranians to cause a lot of upset and disruption in that region of the world.
Yep. And one thing that Iran wants is, you may remember, of course, the treaty, the Iran treaty that Donald Trump ripped up.
Oh, yes.
Because Obama,
like an idiot,
signed an absolutely amazing treaty to not, pardon me, not only denuclearize Iran and allow inspectors into Iran, but the return for that, what Iran got from that, was money that was already theirs.
Yes.
So they talk about, you will often hear this thing about frozen assets when it comes to like talking about Iran. And these frozen assets, it's not our money or anyone else's. It's Iran's money that has been frozen for years and in some cases decades. There's even payments frozen from us to Iran that date back to the Shah period when the Shah was in charge.
Well, that wasn't that the money that had to be released in order to get Nazaddin Zaghari Radcliffe back.
Yep.
Because it was their money.
This is why Iranians like taking hostages whenever they can, to try and sort of leverage that money.
I feel I was very lucky not to be kidnapped by the regime when I was in Iran.
And like I said, that Shah money, that was for a bunch of, I think, not challengers. I think what was chieftains. Yeah, Mark V chieftains that at the time we were going to sell to Iran.
Oh, thanks, Emma. Oh, I just got a £5 super chat. Thank you, Emma. Just because you're working hard at the moment to keep us all sane, Graham. Thank you for your insight and commentary. Oh, thank you. I'm feeling a bit useless at the moment because I keep getting stuff wrong live on YouTube, but it's just hard to keep on top of just absolutely everything, isn't it? There's so much going on.
We'll just put foreign politics to one side for a moment. We'll talk about this vote for a second.
Okay,
this vote I was thinking was all going to go a bit Pete Tong. Like I genuinely thought Rishi Sunak was going to lose this vote.
Yeah.
And when you look at the voting intentions, 29 right-wing Tory MPs abstained. They didn't vote against the bill; they abstained. So the bill passed. Yeah. But here's the thing: if they had voted no, it would have defeated the bill.
Yes, because it was 44 majority?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would have defeated the bill had they actually voted no. Instead, they abstained. And they've now talked about, when it comes to the committee stages that's going to be coming up, now they want to see the bill strengthened. And they're talking about the cash amendment.
Oh,
or at least Mark Francois was talking about the cash amendment to try and strengthen this bill. And if this cash amendment does not go through, we don't know what this amendment is going to be yet. I highly suspect it might be something to do with disregarding European Court of Justice rulings.
Yeah. I could see that happening.
I'm not sure whether that will go through. And then, of course, I'm not even sure whether the moderate Tories might go, well, at this point, we're not going to vote for it.
Well, the thing is that if it does go through, I think it can be held up by the House of Lords now. For a year. So I just don't think it's going to get through. But if it did get through, the Rwandan government has said they will not stand for international law being broken. And so if we break international law by the implementation of this bill, then the Rwandans are out. So I just don't see how it could work. And I also, it's kind of so it's so embarrassing about how obsessed the Tories are with this.
Yep.
This idea that they're going to send a handful of refugees to Africa and that's going to solve all of our problems.
1%.
Yeah.
1% of all immigration.
That's 1% of people coming on boats. It's less than 1% of all immigration because we have like 1 million people coming here a year.
And yet, this is going to solve the whole problem.
Yeah. And you know when you give the migration figures, they said like it was 700,000 and 715,000, something like that. It's more than that because there's a huge chunk of people who have left the country, and they're giving you the net migration. Thanks. So they're giving you net migration figures. We're losing our brightest and best. I've just been delivered some tea by my glamorous assistant. Actually, I'd made it and I'd left it on the other side of the room. So, yeah, I have my tea now. I'm happy. Thanks very much to Questionable Absanity. Look up the rum gas field. Extrapolate. So we need to extrapolate. Tommy says, we all make mistakes, Graham. So do the Tories. The only difference is we admit our mistakes and we learn from them. Whereas the Tories never admit they are wrong. That's very true. I'm quite embarrassing when they sort of really, really push whatever nonsense they're talking from one day to the next.
Ah, yes, I see. Yeah.
Keith has made a good point. It's not about Rwanda.
No,
and he's retracted his point.
Yeah,
sorry, Keith.
Yeah, I'm
but you're absolutely right.
The gas field.
It's not about Rwanda. Yes, we know they're trying to rip up international law and get us out of the European Convention of Human Rights and out of the Council of Europe because that's what Putin wants. Putin has left the Council of Europe after the invasion of Ukraine last year. So has Belarus, and they want us to leave as well. So we could have a club of free countries on the periphery of Europe who are evil, despotic dictatorships. Despicable, despotic dictatorships, which is what Suella Braverman would like, I think. Mm. Did you see her speech last week in the House of Commons?
Yes.
That's disgusting.
That was I want to be seen as the next natural leader of the party. Yes. Everything that she has done for the past probably year and a half has really screamed, I want to be the next leader of the Tory party.
I don't want to just be the next leader. She wants to be the dictator of Britain.
But not yet after the election, because she doesn't want to lose. She wants Rishi to lose, then she can come in.
Fair enough.
That's the plan.
Yeah. So where's this gas field? Is it off the coast of Yemen by any chance?
No, it's off the coast of Scotland, right in between Norway.
Yeah. Are we going to exploit that for making money purposes?
I think we probably will.
Oh, for God's sake. So, yeah, sorry, one thing that should be on our list of things to talk about tonight is COP28. At 11 o'clock our time tonight, we should have our draft resolution ready with the wording changed to whatever the guy who's running the show, the president of of COP28, also the CEO of a large oil company, Al Jaber, his name is, or Al Jabar, I should say. He's going to say that we shouldn't get rid of gas and oil and coal because they're great, and money. So fuck off. I like money.
It's not just them.
No, Ollie, I like money. Did you not hear? Don't care about the future. I like money. I want more of it.
Got a lot of other developing countries as well that have gone, actually, we still haven't even developed properly, fossil fuels, and we need that to help develop our own economies. Which I get. I do understand that there is an economic element for some of these countries want to.
Yeah, not for the UAE. Not for the UAE.
Yeah, not for the UAE.
For developing nations, yeah. Well, this could be it, Ollie. I was thinking about this. Okay. So we owe a lot of countries around the world, over 50 countries in my reckoning, maybe more. We owe them reparations. For instance, when we went into India under the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, India was the richest country on the planet. And when we left in the 1940s, it was one of the poorest. So we owe them. Those countries in West Africa that are still impoverished today, that's kind of our fault. Other countries in Europe as well. But if you look at who actually transported the slaves over to the New World, it was majority British and majority Spanish. Not majority of it was Spanish and British. And the Brits moved more slaves to work in the Caribbean, then were transported over to America to work in the USA. So, okay, let's pay these reparations in forms of, here you go, here's some money to set up some wind farms and some solar panels. So not only would we do our duty in terms of, our balance of payments for our morality, I guess, we would also push these countries towards not using gas and coal and oil, not burning it, and not destroying the future for the entire planet.
Yeah, and
if only we hadn't spent all our money on Brexit, Ollie.
And this is, I think we talked on this last week as well. The idea of a UN Development Council.
Yes, that's a good idea.
So that I think would also be a very good idea. Something that would be well worth setting up. Like we have in the EU, the EU Development Grant.
Yeah, which Objective 1 funding. Yeah,
which looks at which areas need developing, which are the most deprived areas of the country. Here's some money. We want to see projects. You put the money towards the projects. It goes and does it exactly the same thing with the EU. Well, the UN Development Council idea that's been floated. It's never been made yet. It's one of those things that unfortunately has been talked about quite a bit. Just never made it, unfortunately. No one's...
Are you trying to say that the UN might be a bit of a talking shop that never get anything done?
Yeah, it's one of those things that's never gotten off. No one's really had... It's been all talk, but never anything concrete done.
No talk in their trousers.
Yeah.
That's actually the motto of the UN. Ted Boy says, wait till you get the bill from independent Scotland. Yes.
Do you want to repay all that money you owe the colony that failed for us? Because we paid off that for you. So
yes, we did. But we also wouldn't give any succor to the refugees from that failed colony, women and children who came to Jamaica and Saint Lucia and Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, and they were told by the regional governors or the island governors to go away. They wouldn't even give them a barrel of water.
Didn't they end up going to Louisiana eventually? I think
so. Yeah,
I can't remember now.
Yeah. So some Scottish Creole people from Louisiana. But yeah, if you go back far enough, well, yeah, I suppose as well, it was the Scottish king who came to be king of England, not the other way around. So if you want to look at it that way, Scotland actually took over England. I don't know if any Scottish people are going to put up with that version of events, but yeah, we invited the King of Scotland to become the King of England as well.
And apparently, Scotland owns Doncaster as well. Apparently, from some ancient.
Good, you can have it. Oh, mate, have it. Just take it. No, really, take it. You're not far from Donny, are you?
No, it's it's South Yorkshire, so no, it's only across the road.
Oh, come on, Scotland. Take your trash away. Oh, sorry, I'm going mean. You know, Phil Morehouse wants the political capital of the country to be Doncaster.
Well, very connected, technically.
Now, it should be Liverpool, because Liverpool's the only place you can get to from all of the constituent parts of the UK without flying.
Or we could go proper old school and make it York.
We could go proper old school.
Yeah,
the
old medieval capital.
Yeah. But yes. And BUFU Mike is saying, didn't the Welsh discover South America 200 years before Cook? I don't think it was Cook who found South America. I thought that was kind of Columbus. He got to Panama on his fourth journey to the New World. But I know that the Vikings definitely got to Canada before anyone else. 500 years before anyone else. Why not Warsaw? Warsaw in Birmingham. Because it's in Birmingham.
Have you been to Birmingham?
Yeah. Have you been, sir? So let's move on. So next I'd like to talk about the GOP. The GOP-shites. See what I did there? The Republican Party and Viktor Orban, both of whom are blocking billions of dollars and euros that should be going over to Ukraine right
both
now.
for very different reasons, though. We'll to discuss the GOP first, because they're the ones very different. Their situation is very different to one of Hungary and old Viktor Orban. So you may remember we discussed this. I think it was maybe our second or third episode of Geoscope. You may remember where we were talking about Kevin McCarthy.
Great days.
Being ousted.
Wasn't he the little kid out of Home Alone?
No, Kevin McCarthy.
Oh, that was Kevin McAllister.
That's Kevin Macaulay Culkin.
Yes. Who grew up to be the great Jigsaw killer. Someone pointed out in a nice meme that he could have called the police at any time, but no, he wanted to see the wet bandits suffer. He wanted to see the wet bandits die.
That's the Home Alone
little
sequel
psycho.
we were missing. The following court case.
Would you like to play a game? Right, anyway. Yeah, so Viktor Orban, though, he is a right-wing populist knobhead in Hungary, which is never a good sign. Hungary was on the side of the Axis powers in World War II, so not a great history, I guess, in that respect. And that's not making light of any terrible things that Britain did in the past, or England. I'm just saying that, like, that last time they went for autocracy, it didn't end so well.
Also, where the phrase tanky came from.
Oh, really? Explain.
Yes.
Why is that?
So when Hungary said we don't want to be, under the USSR's boot, obviously they rolled in the tanks to sort of put down the protests, and this is where the big split of the UK Communist Party came in. Those who agreed with it and what Russia were doing came to be known as tankies.
But why tankies? Because they rolled the tanks.
Because they rolled the tanks in. Yeah.
Ah, okay. But the Velvet Revolution, that wasn't Hungary, was it? That was where was that? Was that Prague? Was that Czechoslovakia? And then obviously you had Solidarity in Poland, which was major in the 1980s, and that was part of, pulling down the Iron Curtain. Now we're stuck behind our own curtain, a gammon curtain, if you will. Cut off from the rest of the world.
A very meaty curtain.
A meaty curtain of gammon. A wall of gammon has been erected between us and the rest of our continent for some reason. Because our bananas just aren't deformed enough, mate. God damn it. And our passports aren't blue enough. But yeah. Ex-Hemel has just said America has got the inflation down to 3.1%, which is pretty impressive. They've also got a pretty decent growth rate in America as well at the moment.
Yep.
I was talking on another stream about how the Rwandan GDP has risen by 3.2%.
I'm sure it's nothing we've given them possibly over 400.
No, for the 290 million that we've given so far, or we'll give by next year, that raises their GDP by 3.2%. Yep. Good job, everyone. That's our taxpayers. That's tax money. That's money that people pay in tax.
Yeah. Could have actually been spent on, solving the asylum problem here rather than giving it to Rwanda.
Yeah. One angry pagan says, wasn't the US aid package for both Ukraine and Israel? Yes, you are right. It's for Israel as well.
Originally, it was,
and now they've tied it in with
they were gonna
building
pass them together, but that didn't end up happening.
So what's happening? They have to tighten up the southern border, or they're not gonna? They're holding this money hostage.
The Israel package got stripped out, so that became its own separate thing. And then when they went to pass the US aid package to try and sort of placate the Republicans, they put in like the border wall stuff to try and pass it. But McCartney, no, not McCartney.
The new guy, Johnson. Mike Johnson, is it?
Mike Johnson, yeah.
I can't remember. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, well, whoever the current speaker is.
Whoever the speaker is. Let us know in the chat.
I can't remember his name now. He's been stopping going the floor because if you remember the rule that got rid of Kevin McCartney, that is still in place. So
one
angry
person,
Republican could
Mike
start,
Johnson. Yeah, it's Mike Johnson. His name is.
yeah,
Sorry.
one angry Republican could oust Mike Johnson,
Wow.
and it could, and that whole chaos that we saw in the Senate between the Republicans could all start again.
Who is it that is looking at what the Republicans are doing in America, and looking at what the Tories are doing in this country? The absolute chaos, the mismanagement, the incompetence, the infighting. They look at that and they're like, "I want more of this. This is great." You know, imagine if you're in a plane, right, and they accidentally turn the intercom on between the cockpit and the rest of the plane. And for like an hour of the flight, all you can hear is the co-pilot and the pilot screaming obscenities at each other instead of flying the freaking plane. How terrified would you be? Like, get me off this thing! And we've got a parachute.
It's one of those. It's like, oh dear. But yeah, so that's why the Ukrainian aid package in America is being held up, because the Republicans can't get their act together. The Democrats want to pass it, but they can't at the moment.
But surely there's enough. Surely there's enough. I mean, they only need about 4 Republicans to vote for it, don't they?
Yep. Like I said, the main problem is that he's stopping it coming to the floor.
Oh, right. So it's just one person has blocked it.
Yeah, he's stopping it coming to the floor because he's not convinced, or he's worried about if he does pass it, or he is seen to be giving in to the Biden administration, that of course, as we said, one angry Republican could just give him the old boot. And, you know, what we saw of that whole Republican chaos for almost like a week and a half could start again. So yeah, they're a little bit, he's a little bit worried in his seat, shall we say. He's not sitting too comfortably. Meanwhile, of course, Viktor Orban holding up the Ukrainian aid package by the EU for completely different reasons.
So why is he holding it up?
So, as you all know, if you know anything about Viktor Orban, he's been a very naughty boy, hasn't really been following EU rules, ignoring EU rulings in like the courts for economics, all kinds of like, you know, social justice reasons, going after, of course, you know, press, a myriad of reasons. And the EU has held back, I think, something about 13 billion euros from Hungary, because he's not doing what every other country in the EU should be doing, which is, you know, you're part of the EU, you follow the rules, you follow the laws, then excellent, there you go, there's your money. And because he hasn't been doing that, they've withheld the money. So he is going to withhold not only the 500 million euro Ukrainian aid package, he is also trying to stop Ukrainian ascension for them joining the EU.
I think we should throw. I was going to say, I think we should throw them out. I think that the EU should throw out Hungary, suspend it, use Article 49. Is it?
I think so.
If you're being naughty, you can get out of our club. One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the super chat, sir. Political dissociation is probably one of the biggest factors in just how bad politicians are now. That and a lack of political education. Just my opinion. I think you're right. I mean, yeah, I mean, I've spoken about sort of people who don't care about politics, and it's impossible to get them to care about politics. It's like going, if you teach people about football, they'll be into football more. If they're not into football already, mate, just not going to happen. It's like trying to get a 40-year-old to start smoking who's never smoked before. It's just, it does happen now and again, but it's bloody difficult, you know. Or to get someone who smoked for 40 years to stop. It's just a bit tricky. But what I see is the important thing going into the next election is making people feel empowered to go out and vote. And that's why I think that tactical voting is going to be so important, because that will make a difference. Yep. Even in ridiculously safe Tory seats, there's a chance that with enough people getting together, we can get rid of these Tories, as we saw in the local elections.
I think Phil's talked about this before, about the idea of localism, and I've talked about it before. This is where I get out my book every single time. Paint your town red. Unfortunately, it's a very nice shade of green.
Green screen green.
Always recommend it. Very, very good book. But yeah, localism, I think is going to become the new watchword. I think Labour doing the whole sort of local judge, where it's like where there's antisocial behavior happening, the community can come together and decide what the punishment should be. I think, even though that sounds like a lot of people laugh at that idea, but if you actually go to communities where there's serious antisocial problems, that's what they've been asking for years to help try to solve this problem. So it'll get there. It'll be done, but you've got to re-engage people, and it's very hard to do.
And one of the reasons why so many people have such an emotional attachment to Brexit is, I've said this a million times before, it was the one time in their life they put an X on a bit of paper and it actually changed something. Mm-hmm. Most of us live in safe constituencies. We'll always have one party running our constituency until we bring in proportional representation. Saw quite an interesting stat earlier about the vote for the vote for the Rwanda policy, the Rwanda is safe bill, or the Rwanda safety bill. So 313 ayes to the left and 269 those to the right. Someone's broken that down by constituency and worked out that actually the ayes only cover about 12 million people, whereas the no's cover the equivalent of over 16 million people. Not the equivalent, it just covers 60 million people. So if we had proportional representation, that vote would have gone the other way.
Yep. Like I say, it's
the same people voting for them. That's 2019 results.
I think it's a big change we need to get done, but not just Westminster. I keep on saying it. I think the first thing we need to hit up is the House of Lords, because there's a lot more, I think, interest in really changing the Lords. And I think if you change the Lords and you get that change to a House of regional representatives, then I think you can probably convince people, well, actually, we should probably change this in Westminster as well. But yeah, I've talked about that plenty on my channel before. But yes, this whole Ukrainian aid package being held up is quite worrying, especially with the US one, because their one is their original aid that they passed before is starting to run out. Yeah. So the window for them passing it in America is closing very quickly, which could leave Ukraine with big shortages, because even if they pass it, the longer that period is, the more those shortages might be increasing for things like, ammo for artillery and etc., replacement parts for vehicles and so forth, other military goods that Ukraine needs to buy. And same for the EU one at the moment, although their one's got a bit more time on it at least, but the money being able to pass from now would be pretty good. And I think we said this last time that Lammy really needs to think about what if Trump wins and have a plan in place to get all of Europe together and right, what are we going to do?
Trump's still ahead in 2 battleground states, despite the fact that he has said, when asked, are you going to be a dictator? He said yes.
Yeah, on day one.
On day one. But only for day one.
He's going to be a dictator for one day, Graham.
And what he's going to do is he's going to shut the border and he's going to drill. Now, the idea that he's going to drill all the oil in all the world that he wants to drill for whatever reason on the first day he takes office is that's for the birds. Yeah. But just to give a little bit of reassurance to people watching this, if Trump does win, mark my words, it's going to be an absolute fucking catastrophe for the world. Not just for America, but the world. And he might want to try and become a dictator for life, but I don't think that's possible. I don't. There's too many half decent checks and balances in the system that just won't allow him to do that. There's two. For instance, if you want to change the constitution, you need a 2/3 majority in both houses. He's never going to get that because he's not going to have the members in the House of Representatives or the Senate. He just isn't going to have those kind of numbers. And he can't. The idea that he's going to tell the DOJ the Department of Justice what to do, it's separate. And don't forget, all the people working for those departments, they're unionized. They've got their own powers.
That's where Plan 2025 comes in.
Well, yes.
Plan 2025 is the plan created by Steve Bannon and other sort of Republicans who were like, right, Trump's first run was 1.0. And we saw the problems. We saw where stuff didn't work. Well, okay, here's Plan 2.0. And Plan 2.0 is a lot more competent. There's a lot more stuff that, things could do that, especially reappointing people. So Bannon actually had an interview with the guy who, if Trump won under this plan, he'd become head of the FBI. Trump could appoint him.
But doesn't that have to be signed off by Congress?
Well, exactly. This is one of the big things with all these appointees. It's if you get these appointees in place and they're already in place or pretty much waiting and ready to go, then how many of these can actually be stopped? How many of these?
Well, they have to go through the vetting process in Congress, most of them. I know the people around Trump, his cabinet, he just self-picks, but I mean, you saw how quickly he got through people in the last administration. It was like he had a whole new staff every other week.
They're seriously talking about like dismantling a whole regulatory agencies, like dismantling, on day one firing like over 5,000 like US like civil servants.
Who are all unionized. Who all have the contracts that it'll get dragged into the courts. But it won't be legal for the government to do that. And then by the time,
one of the things that remember Trump, when Trump was in, Trump was heavily appointing a lot of lawyers, a lot of these Republican right-wing lawyers, not just to the Supreme Court, but the lower courts as well. He's sort of not only stacked the upper courts, but they've stacked the lower courts as well.
Why hasn't Biden done anything like this? Why hasn't Biden just been stacking everything?
He has been, but they just haven't gotten to the appointments yet because the Republicans have been on purpose holding up the appointments. I wonder why.
Why didn't the Democrats do that? Do you know what I mean? I don't understand why they just
exactly. This is one of the big. I think when you look at any political commentator, they always say this: why don't the Democrats do this? Why don't they do this?
Yeah, they go low.
Where's their spine? Where's their spine to sort of fight on these issues? And it is a serious problem. And I think again it comes down to sometimes just a lack of inexperience. Sometimes there's a lack. I think really in the Republican Party you do see that central planning. And everyone marches to the same beat, where it's not necessarily that same thing in the Democrat Party. Which goes to show you just how important party unity is. As we are seeing at the moment over here. But yeah, it's worrying the fact that we could see Ukraine put in this situation with both these aid packages being hauled up, and especially with Orban, because this is what I find the really insidious part about it, because Orban will, if he gets asked, well, are you saying we should just abandon Ukraine? He's saying, no, we shouldn't abandon Ukraine. I'm just asking questions. Yeah, I'm just asking questions, guys. Do we really think that we can continue this without the US? Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
We absolutely can. That's not a problem. We just need, the countries to sort of get together and really think, right, well, what can we do? We don't even necessarily need the EU involved. It's just the individual countries saying, right, we're going to sort of support them and make sure this gets passed. It's very worrying, of course. And I think, again, we're coming up to another pivotal period where I think Russia is definitely holding out for a Trump victory. I think that's their plan, in the hope, Trump will come in with his quote, "I'll solve this on day one" plan, but we don't know what that plan is.
And that will be giving 1/5 of Ukrainian territory to Putin.
Yeah, quite possibly.
To the Dnipro River, which he sees that as, like, from a geographical standpoint, it's quite a good defense against any future invasion from the west of Europe. Not that that's going to happen, but, he's a paranoid madman in charge of the biggest country in the world, which for some reason is big enough.
Well, it's not just that; it's Kadyrov, the leader of not Georgia, Chechnya. That's it.
Oh God, he's horrible. Oh, he's a psychopath.
Yeah, he said that Russia is going to continue this war until they get to Odessa. And if you remember, when Lukashenko leaked the entire invasion plan, the idea was to go to Odessa, right up to Transnistria, and sort of link up there, and then
link it up.
Then basically
Transnistria being a de facto part of Russia, but is actually in Moldova.
Yep.
It's a little skinny little country.
Yep, 10,000.
Its own flag that still has a hammer and sickle on the flag. So great.
Yep. The Soviet Union never fell there.
The Soviet Union, the Soviet Empire. Can we stop calling it the Soviet Union? It was never a union. It was an empire. As simple as that. And the people on the left don't like calling it that because they want to say, "Oh no, we're the imperial. We're the ones who had the empire." It's like, no, the Soviets definitely had the Russians had an empire as well. It's called the Russian Empire, and then it magically became the Soviet Union. But just because it's called the People's Republic of Korea doesn't mean that the people get a say in what goes on. These dictators are very crafty in the way they call their countries certain things. This is the People's Republic, mate. It's fine. The people get to decide. They don't. If anyone dares criticize me, I'll throw them in jail and torture them and kill them. Talking of people being thrown in jail and tortured, Navalny's disappeared. Have you heard about this?
Oh, I've heard about it. Yeah, it's not surprising.
So this is Putin's number one nemesis, who was put in jail for leaving the country without asking. The reason why he left the country without asking is because he had been poisoned with Novichok, and he was on death's door, and he needed to have treatment in Europe. So he was flown out of the country. He was unconscious at the time, and when he came back to Russia, he was put in jail for many years for leaving Russia without permission from the lunatics in charge, mainly Vladimir Putin. And talking of leaving Russia without permission, what's going on with these passports, mate?
Oh, so this is, this is interesting. This might be one of the things we may never really know the true extent of. But this is just a hint, maybe how bad this has actually gotten for Russia. So roughly about this time last year, the CIA started actually running ads in Russia, basically saying, do you happen to have access to top secret information and you are a Russian official? Why not defect to the US? We'll give you asylum. We'll give you a home. We'll set you up. Just come on over and give us your top secret information. And whenever something like this happens, we never really know how many defectors will probably turn out. Will probably go over. We may learn one day, but I doubt it'll be anytime soon. But Putin has started taking away passports. He started taking away a lot of passports recently
from diplomats, civil servants.
Yeah. Not only has he just started taking away passports, or at least now really signing into law, all these occupied areas, and forcing Russian passports onto the occupied, and basically saying if you don't take it, you're going to be deported, you're going to lose all your property. So that's one thing that's come into play very recently. He started taking away passports from anyone who could be conscripted, to stop people running away if they get conscripted.
Ooh,
and then the big one,
lots of young men ran away, didn't they?
And then this is the big one. with going what I've just said. With again, do you happen to be, basically, do you have access to top secret documents or information from the Russian government, and you want to defect? Well, guess what? If you're a Russian and you have even touched or seen top secret information, you no longer have a passport.
Ooh.
So that says to me that there has been a significant amount of defections of Russians with top secret information.
Yeah.
Because there is no way you would pass this law if this wasn't a problem.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Oh, my God.
That was something very interesting when I saw that, because I was like, "Oh, hold on a second. Why people with top secret information?" And then you realize that the CIA's been offering over for a year now. Come on over. We'll give you asylum. We'll give you a house. All it is give us your top secret information.
Yeah.
And we will like I say, we might never know the full extent. We might maybe learn in a couple of years what it was, but if Putin's done this is
he's done it for a reason, hasn't he?
It's a significant problem.
Yes. Also, 90% of the troops that he had at the beginning of Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine, are dead or injured. 90% are out of the theatre of battle. Theatre of war.
And this goes back to what we always say in this, if you give the Ukrainians the weapons, they can get the job done. Time and time again, they've proved that.
Yeah. Bang for your buck, if in terms of keeping the global order and all that kind of jazz, it's a lot more cost effective than trying to send a handful of refugees to Rwanda. Yep. Thank you very much, Emma Price. Sorry, I missed your super chat there. £2 super chat. Starmer did a good speech in Milton Keynes today. He did. It was great. It was really good, and he really spelled it out, the situation that we're currently up against with the madness that is the Conservative Party right now. And there was another super chat. Thanks so very much, Emma. I would place a bet on Trump and MAGA GOP are done. I don't know. Yeah, so much of it hinges on the decisions of just a handful of people.
Yeah.
At the Supreme Court. So Jack Smith has taken it straight to the Supreme Court to save time, to see if I was president and therefore immune from prosecution is a defense that can be used. And there's a bit of what do they call it in legalistic language? There's precedent for this. There's precedent for the president. In that, in 1974, I think, during the Watergate scandal, it was actually they skipped a few courts and went straight to the Supreme Court to say, can we prosecute the president for breaking the law? And the Supreme Court said, yes, like the man from Del Monte when the fruit was ripe. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting because, as we know, the Republicans have stacked the Supreme Court full of nutters. It's 6-3 in favour of a very, very conservative faction.
Yeah, there's a big case going on at the moment over, I think it's in Texas, a woman being forced to carry, essentially, unfortunately, what is a dead fetus, and she can't have an abortion.
Because this is in Texas, sorry.
Yeah, Texas.
Yeah, and the court has said that she.
Yep, they're forcing her to have the baby, even though
the baby's dead.
Yeah.
So it's not about saving the life of the child because
it's all about birth. Like I say, last time I'd heard she'd fled Texas, which is going to be even more interesting because this puts now that Texas law potentially going to go to the Supreme Court. So that could be interesting as well to see how that pans out.
Ernie Burns says in the chat they said yes. So I'm just looking. Supreme Court responds to quick ruling request for Trump immunity. They've responded to it. I don't know if they said yes to actually saying ask the Supreme Court to take up and rule quickly on whether Donald Trump can be prosecuted on charges that he plotted to overturn the 2020 election results, and they will quickly hear the case, ordering Trump's lawyers to respond by December the 20th, which is next week. So there you go.
Oh yes, one comment in the chat that I wanted to respond to, because this is something that does come up quite a lot. Joel Jupp, his comment about Russia's military strength, about how we got it so wrong. Here's the thing: if you go and listen to a lot of like Russian experts, I mean proper Russian experts, not people like George Galloway or anyone else of that ilk, they got it right. They got it right. They said, look, Russia's military is not in the best condition. We just don't know how bad it actually really is. And in the initial 2014 push, when they took Crimea, that didn't really go so well. They suffered quite a lot of casualties to civilian militia, most especially Azov militia, which is why you see so much Azov hate from Russia. So this whole idea that, oh, we got it wrong about the Russian military. No, there were people out there calling Russia out for what it was. It was an absolute paper tiger.
Yeah.
But the true extent, they just didn't really know.
There's an argument that if we had supported Ukraine properly in 2014, like we said we would, when they unilaterally got rid of all their nuclear weapons, just a small force could have seen the Russians off. Because remember, it was like the little green men, wasn't it, who turned up? The little green men. They weren't even wearing Russian fatigues or anything, or Russian uniforms. Yeah, and it was just, it's like a child. Boris Johnson, Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump, they just want to find out where the boundary is. They want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, little by little, and see where the boundaries are.
And this is where why we have to win in Ukraine.
Yes,
because if we don't, well, where's he going to push next?
Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, at least half of those countries. Yep. He'll try and take them.
Or does he go into Finland? Does he try and close the Suwalka Gap?
Yeah.
That
makes cheesy sense, I guess, for him.
You've seen at the border in Finland, Russia doing what it normally does with immigrants who come to Russia. They've started now forcing them basically out of Russia into foreign borders. So they tried this in Finland recently, just the past couple of weeks. So they, it really is just a question of how are we willing, and do we have the political will and strength to continue the support? And I think that is there. But at the same time, remember, Putin has said all these red lines throughout this war that if you do this, if you send long-range missiles to Ukraine, I'll use the nukes. I'll use the nukes. You see if I don't use the nukes. Well, we sent long-range missiles weeks ago. They have Storm Shadows and they've got short-range ATACMS. They've used that to really good effect against Russia.
Yeah.
No nuke yet. Yeah, that's the red line. He said don't send any Western tanks. We've sent Western tanks. We've sent Leopards. We've sent Challengers. We've sent Abrams.
Well, something else that we haven't mentioned as well, Abkhazia, which is one of the regions of Georgia that was annexed by Putin. Well, it was Mendeleev, was his name Mendeleev, the president at the time, but at the time, Putin was the prime minister, just biding his time before they could change the constitution to become president again for life. So there was South Ossetia and Abkhazia, which were taken by the Russians in 2008. They're building a massive naval base in Abkhazia, which is interesting because it sounds like they're trying to move their ships away from Crimea. One of the reasons why they wanted Crimea is that Russia had a naval base in Sebastopol, which had been there for donkey's years, and they actually paid the Ukrainians to maintain that they could keep that, in the same way that there's a British naval base on Cyprus, and there's an American military base, naval base in Cuba, which is the maddest one, isn't it? In Guantanamo Bay. But yeah, so they're building this massive new naval base because I think they're thinking these boats are a bit close to Ukraine, and Ukraine keep blowing them up with homemade drones.
Yeah, and one of the good developments from this is that Turkey has really started supporting and working with Ukraine a lot as well.
Yeah,
which is really good to see, because obviously Turkey, in any potential sort of war scenario, a lot of that potential war is going to be fought on their doorstep. To the fact that they've now really turned on, really start to engage with Russia, and seen that they can now challenge the dominance in the Black Sea with the help of Ukraine. That's good for us. So, and that's also part of the reason why they're trying to build that new naval base as well.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, if they fail, if the Russians fail, as I hope they do, in this massive land grab of their neighbor Ukraine, maybe it'll inspire Georgia to start fighting back as well and take back South Ossetia and Abkhazia, which are two separatist regions, but they're de facto part of Russia now. Just to jump into the chat before we go, because we've got to wind up. It's 3 minutes past 10. Ollie, it's past my bedtime. Countdown to Power says, I won a bet with my mate when Biden beat Trump, but frankly, I wouldn't risk my money this time. I think Trump could win. I think he could as well. We've also got Dirty Steeds saying the AI will be setting off the nukes without us. I don't think they will, because our nuclear weapons in the United States, and possibly in Russia, I don't know, are still operated by floppy disks.
Yep.
And I mean those big floppy disks about the size of a laser disc, the size of a record. Like, literally big floppy disc.
Yep. There's a really good John Oliver segment about that.
Yeah. It's really old tech.
I want to learn about, the US military.
So yeah, don't worry about AI taking that over just yet. Yoni's saying as if the fissile material and those weapons had already been sold in the black market. Maybe. Yoni also says, on that note, hi from Finland. Hi, Finland. And One Angry Pagan saying, Devon is the only rainforest in the UK. I'm hearing the Tories will want to remove its protected status for the free port that's supposed to take up most of Dartmoor. Pagan population here is pissed. I don't know if it's just the pagan population, mate. I think it'd be anyone with
everyone is.
Yeah, a heart, a soul, a desire for their children to see a bright future. Anyway, Serendipity Journey says the world has gone mad. Despots everywhere. Thank you very much for the super chat. And yeah, it certainly seems that way.
I say, unfortunately, I said this all the time. Foreign policy, it's very much of a Debbie Downer. Sometimes foreign policy, there's sometimes
not too many good jokes to tell.
There's it's unfortunately that's just foreign policy, some for you. But it needs to be talked about, and especially from this stuff, it's good to have at least a knowledge about what's going on, because this can affect us in various different ways. So.
Oh, Countdown to Power, my first member chat. Woo! Thanks very much, Countdown to Power. If you would like to spread the joy this Christmas, you can always get yourself a Labour social mug. There's other designs available. There's one that says, I voted for Brexit because I'm a mug. On the mug, you can buy that. And if you do know someone who voted for Brexit, consider getting the Great Brexit Cookbook, which is a compendium of over 100 Victorian recipes, none of that foreign muck, and includes things like gelatin of rabbit, woodcocks to serve, sparrow stew, roast pigeons, sheep's head pie, eel pudding, and meat gâteau. Come on, who doesn't want to eat a meat gâteau? That sounds perfect. So yeah, and nettle wine is in here. Beef tea. Would you like some beef tea? Some raw beef tea, in fact. And of course, we've got some patriotic pudding in there as well, along with Ilkley pudding. Have you heard of Ilkley pudding?
Yes.
You have?
Yes,
Oh, well,
local
actually,
pudding, yep.
these are genuine recipes that you can actually make if you're feeling sick. if you want to make your guest throw up. Bland and tasteless recipes. I think on the back it says, may the miserable and restricted future that you have voted to foist on your offspring taste as delicious as the dishes contained within. So that's the great Brexit cookbook by Graham Hughes. Links to that and the mugs are in the chat, so in the description below. So thanks very much, Ollie, legend, taking us around the world to what's all going on. There's so much to talk about. And thank you to everyone who has contributed in the chat. Thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks for the super chats. And I'll be back in the morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, at 9:30 for the next edition of Morning Brew, where we will be dissecting what happened in Parliament earlier this evening. So until then, thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.
Goodbye.